How to make your Miata shifter go from this to this.
You're going to start by unscrewing your shift knob, and then you'll have these 5 little screws that you need to undo. You want to be careful of these 2 little levers. You want to lift your center console up and out through the hole, as you can see here. Get rid of this sound damping, pretty ugly and nasty. You can see here my gasket is completely fucked. Hopefully yours isn't. And you'll have these 4 10mm bolts that you want to get rid of. Pry this off. Stick this under it. So you can see my gasket here is split as well completely. You can see how dirty this housing is. We don't want to get any of that dirt into the transmission. So if yours is not split like mine is right here, you definitely want to clean this up while you can. But for now, I'm just going to deal with that later. We're going to go ahead and get this off. So now that we have our 3 10mm bolts off, we're going to lift this straight up out with this little gasket. And it's going to probably be leaking a little, so it's probably a good idea if you want, I don't know, you can put a towel in your car or something. In my case, I'm just going to use a napkin, hold it under it when I lift it out, and, catch any of the drips. So now that we got that off, you should see a bunch of transmission fluid in there. That looks empty. That's probably not a good sign. If it has some in there like mine does, it's probably a good sign, that, you have enough transmission fluid in your car, and that's probably been serviced recently. I still have a decent amount of fluid in there, but I went ahead and pumped some of it out to make it easier and so that I could fill it up with some newer fluid. Right before I did this, I did just service the transmission as well with some new fluid. Completely drained it and replaced it, so that's definitely a good idea to do too while you're doing this. So now what you want to do is, there's this white thing, I forgot to record it, that's in there. That's going to be sitting right under this pin here. I kind of was able to just pry it out. You might have to punch this pin out. In my case, it didn't seem like I did, but there's also going to be a washer in here. You can see this thin little washer here. We're going to go ahead and replace that too. So as you can see, here's our new washer. I'm going to go ahead and place that right in there. And now you want to take your replacement, this little white piece, go ahead and stick it right back in there. That's what I just did here. You can see it kind of moving around right there. I did not have to move this pin at all. I don't think you guys will either. So yeah, it should just go sit right in there. Now, as I told you guys earlier, we are going to refill this with some new fluid. I tried to drain as much as I could with a pump. I don't think I got all of it out, as you can see. There's definitely still some in there, but I did it for a while. So I believe this turret housing calls for 90 milliliters, from what I can tell, of transmission fluid. Since I do think I have some old left in there, I have this medicine cup of 30 milliliters, and I'm gonna go ahead and pour that in, and then fill more if I think it needs more. So now we can go ahead and focus on our actual shifter. We can go ahead and remove this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just take a X-Acto knife or something, or razor, and just cut this off. Since we're not gonna be using it, we're gonna be replacing it anyway. And you should have a bushing here. Funnily enough, mine does not even have a bushing. So that might explain a lot of its, flop it has. So if you do have a bushing though, you're going to want to remove that as well. So as you can see, I got that little boot off and the ring. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in some degreaser, WD-40 and stuff. Just scrub it off with a brush. Try to get some of that rough stuff right there off. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take this little washer with these little tabs. You can see I already had another. And you're going to slide it on this ring. You can see it kind of snaps into place at those 3 spots. Kind of sit like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our shifter. We're going to slide this on like so. So now that we have this on, we want to go ahead and put our new boot, or a little insulator, whatever you want to call it on. It's not a bad idea to hit this with some WD-40, move it up a little bit so that you can slide this on easier without, fucking it up in any way. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do here. So as you can see, I've gone ahead and seated it in here. You want to go ahead and put your bushing on the bottom of this as well, your new bushing. You kind of just stick it in. You'll play around with this. You can see this little hole. That's how you know this is facing the right way. Also, it goes in properly if it's facing the right way. Otherwise, it's going to feel awkward. It's not going to be, locking into place like it should. So I'm going to go ahead and bolt these back down now. So another thing to mention, now that I have these bolts in, this is looking good, is you definitely want to take like a gasket remover or something, or a scraper rather, and go around and scrape any of that old foam that's left over from your last boot, so that your surface is nice and clean for your new boot. Now I took the boot, and I lubed it up with some WD-40, also put some WD-40 on the shifter. What you want to do is slide it on, smaller part goes closest to you, and what you kind of want to do is go front first, like angle it kind of downwards, and then you'll be able to slide it on and just push this little part down once you get it on. And now we're going to go ahead and reinstall our 4 10mm bolts here. Now looking around, I could not really find a torque spec for any of these bolts. There's 3 bolts in this inside the, like on that first boot included. I could not find any torque spec for that. So I'm just going ahead here and I'm just snugging them down. I don't want to make them too tight because, I don't think these bolts are that, important. I don't think you're going to want to strip these. I don't want to run the risk of stripping them. So I think you can just get them hand tight. So since the sound dampening was here, I'm going to go ahead and put that in as well. It's probably not a bad idea to buy a replacement for that. I didn't. I don't think it's a huge deal. But, if that's something you want to do, not a bad idea to do that while you're in here. So now that we have our ugly ass sound damping back in place, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the center console. And that's just the same way you took it out, obviously, very simple. You're just going to slide it over. Make sure if you, like me, you have this electrical connector, you reconnect it to the console before you bolt it all down. I'm not entirely sure what this is for, but yeah, just make sure you do it. It was there before, so may as well put it back, right? So now that you have your center console back, last step is just to put your shift knob back on. That's it. I like to make mine really tight. There we go. Perfect. Now you go ahead and test it out. Let's see here. Oh yeah, it's insane. Look at this. Nothing. No wiggle. No wiggle at all. When you're in gear, there is absolutely no wiggle now. Out of gear, barely any wiggle. You can't even move it up and down either. Look at that. Make sure reverse still works. Probably not a bad idea. Yep, everything's good. Beautiful.